Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Nidhi, and I'm a team member from Cybersecure India. So I would like to welcome you all for your ninth session with us. And for today's session, we are graced by the presence of Kiran Kumar Subudhi, sir. Let me introduce him to you all. He is an experienced security analyst with expertise in multiple domains of cybersecurity, which includes vulnerability assessment and penetration testing of Android and web applications, infrastructure pen testing, blue teaming, and digital forensic investigation. He is among the top 15 researchers, and he has also received a Hall of Fame from various organizations like Paytm, Hotstar, OnePlus, MasterCard, etc. He is also a core team member of Cybersecure India and is currently working with ACL Digital. Kiran sir, over to you.
Thank you, Nidhi, for the brief introduction.
Thank you,
So,
Kiran Kumar sir, for joining today and
thank
sharing.
you, sir. Thank you, Nikhil, sir, for this platform. Okay, so just give me a minute. Let me just log in.
Sure, sure.
Okay, done. So, today's session will be on CSRF and STI. So, just a generic question like anybody is aware of this particular terms, what is CSRF and what is STI by any chance? Someone would like to el- elaborate on these topics? Okay, no worries. So these are since we are already working on web application vulnerabilities, so they are part of web application vulnerabilities. Yeah, someone has mentioned the chat that CSI is cross-site request forgery. That's the full form. Good. And coming to the brief introduction of me, Nidhi has already provided, but still, if you want to check, who am I? So my name is Kiran Kumar, and I'm a senior security information security engineer, or you can say pen tester at ACL Digital, and also worked with SOC analyst as well as cybercrime investigator in the past. So when it comes to education part, so I'm a BSc graduate from Ramnandri Autonomous College, BSc Zoology, and has various achievements. In, okay, so coming to the this is a basic definition, which is again fetched from the Google itself. CSRF, that is cross-site request forgery, is a web security vulnerability that allows attacker to force users to perform actions that they do not intend. So let's break down into simple terms. So whenever you want to perform any action or you want someone to force to perform such any kind of actions, for example, you want someone's account to be deleted, you want to do a transaction, you want to do anything, but that he is not intended, he's not aware that that action will be performed. Suppose you are sending a link and someone is clicking on that link and an action is performed. His accounts get deleted, his transaction get done. So there will be various other conditions where you, without the intent of that particular user, the actions are getting executed. That also on the client side. So sometimes we say cross-site request forgery, sometimes we client-side request forgery. So these terms come hand in hand. Okay. So this occurs to client side, but executed at server side. So this is how the cross-site request forgery looks like. So let's take an example scenario using a graphical demonstration. So this is an attacker. Attacker is sending a malicious request to the victim. So it might be in the form of URL, it might be email, it might be any platform. It also can be in the form of like a HTML, we can say page or a file or something. Okay. So this crafted request, let's take an example of a bank account is forged into a particular email address. As soon as the victim clicks on the particular email, the attacker receives the money. So we will be looking this practically in the upcoming session. So for the timing, this is the basic scenario. Okay. So here are a couple of examples like what exactly we can do. We can change the shipping address, we can change the name, email address, accounts, passwords, and so on and so forth. So also we can also, there's a possibility that you might have seen there are multiple roles in the particular application. When we say about roles, like there's a low privilege user role, high privilege user role. So there are particular permissions that are not allowed for example, there's a teacher who can have access to the results, data, or we can update marks or do other kind of things. So whereas students cannot do it. So this something can be done over here, like if you want to, if you update a particular your marks or something, then you can do it using CSRF, modify the permissions, delete and deactivate, transfer funds, etc. So ultimately, sometimes you can also get the full control of the particular user, but that is where that comes when it comes to chaining, like CSRF with XSS, CSRF with IDOR, and various other things. So that chaining part will be also seen in the upcoming one. Now, how to detect? This is very important. I have an approach of like, first of all, that is like detect. Then we have to verify like if it is exploitable or not. Then we have to prevent, mitigate basically. So I follow DDP, detect, then verify, and then prevent. So based on this particular request, okay. So I have mentioned that this vulnerable to CSRF. What do you think? Why it is vulnerable to CSRF? Any idea? So when we say that this application or this request is vulnerable to CSRF, detection is very easy. So how to detect it is basically, okay, someone mentioned that it is because of the email address. No, it is no. And okay, someone mentioned there is no anti-CSL token. So it is, there might be anti-CSL tokens, okay, or there might be some kind of unique parameters that is unique for each request. So okay, in that scenario, if you don't find any unique parameter, and that is also not guessable parameter, non-guessable parameter, then it is vulnerable to CSRF. Okay, so in this particular request, we don't see any kind of unique parameter that is unique for each request. Some might say that there is a unique parameter called session ID. I do agree this is a unique parameter, but this session ID is unique to a particular user or particular session interval basically. This is not unique for every request. So session ID doesn't change on every request. So this need to be understood that when we say unique, that should be unique for each and every request. So that is something that is a difference between the CSRF part and the session and cookies and stuff. Okay. Let's look at the next request. So here is it. So what do you think? Whether this particular is vulnerable, this is not vulnerable, because so let me stop my screen sharing. I will do some modification. One second, just give me a minute. I'm just want to remove this so that it will be easy for interaction part. Okay, just this slide and which next duplicate and copy. Okay, done. So I'm resharing my screen. One second. Here is it. So we were on this page. So now this is the request. I would like to know, like, what do you think? Is it vulnerable or it is not vulnerable to CSR? You can just mention in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and um, just speak out. Both works. Seems like there is no response from people. So let's break
it is vulnerable because of token.
Exactly. So this is vulnerable because of this particular token. We can see there is a token called CSRF token, and this token will keep on changing on every request. And this is how we can confirm. But what do you think? Is it once we are able to see that there is CSRF token, is it the end? We cannot go ahead for CSRF. No, it is not like whenever we see there is a CSRF token. So it is not like we cannot find CSRF vulnerabilities over there. So whenever there is a fixing or we can say mitigation in place or prevention mechanism in place, we should look for bypasses. We can check like whether it is properly implemented, whether it has something like it can bypass or something. So we can try for the defensive mechanism, we can say, like offensive, like bypassing mechanisms. We will look at it in the further phase. Now, again, as I mentioned, it is not vulnerable because of this particular token. So let's take some on the example. So what is anti-CF token? What exactly is being implemented? So this token is nothing but anti-CF token, which is generated and sent to the server, and that particular token is being reused in the next request. Okay, so this iterations keeps on taking so that every time a new token is being generated and is being used. So because of which we cannot actually perform CSRF directly. Okay, this is used to block various other automation based attacks, and we can say like also CSR attacks and various other things. So this token is unique, unpredictable. This is very important. Like it should be not predictable, it should be not guessable, it should be not having a particular sequence, so that a new crafted CSR token will be generated. Okay, after token issue, the client makes sure a request, like that should be server-side validation properly. It should not be like if the token is missing or something or invalid, it is still accepting. So that the token is not valid. Okay. Next is like, so coming to this one. So what do you think is currently we don't see any kind of CSL token over here. So is it still vulnerable or is it not vulnerable? Okay, someone is saying not vulnerable. I got one response in the chat. Okay, we can change the token. Okay, suddenly because it's going inside. Okay, so I got most of the responses that says that this is not vulnerable. So like all the responses which mentioned that is says not vulnerable. So let's see the response. What exactly is the scenario behind the scenes? So this is not vulnerable. Ideally, it should be vulnerable to CSRF. So basically, if in case this token in the header is getting updated all time, like in each and every request, then it is vulnerable. If it is not getting updated, then it is not vulnerable. Not necessary every time the request will be in the body parameter itself. Sometimes it may be in the form of headers. Sometimes it may be from the like URLs. It might be like it keeps on changing. Not necessary. The developer can place this in the form of for example, there are cases where you won't be able to see such kind of keyword like XCSR token. There might be like just a token or some kind of other things, or like fin key or something, some other keywords. So sometimes developer use different keywords to trick the users basically, so we won't be able to understand things properly. So you have to check the entire body headers and entire request basically to understand whether is there something that is passing that is unique for each and every request, and then you can check. So the answers which I mentioned that it is not vulnerable totally depends on how exactly the one second someone says the hand. Okay. Yeah, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, I have one question. Like parameters which are changing in every request, that means it is vulnerable, right?
No. If it is changing in every request, then it is not vulnerable. So I actually accidentally just uh, I think it got changed in a while. One second. In which slide we were? Let's see. So this is not vulnerable to CSRF. I think while presenting or doing something, I got not got deleted. So this is not vulnerable because it has CSRF token in the header parameter basically. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So whenever you see any kind of unique parameter that keeps on changing on every request, then that is straightforward. It is not vulnerable, but it can be exploited using various bypass techniques. Okay. So in the first phase, you can say there is a mitigation in place, but that might be in like misconfigured, or we can say one is like it is completely vulnerable, one is like it is not vulnerable, but it might be misconfigured. Okay. So we will check out the misconfigurations now. So in this scenario, it is not present in the body, but it is present in the headers. So it is not vulnerable as of now. Okay. Uh, Coming to the next part. Hmm. Let's see why it is vulnerable to CSRF. We can see this is something which is vulnerable to CSRF. I indicate like, okay. S- Uh, this time it is already mentioned. So what do you think? What is the reason for this particular vulnerability? So any reason? I have already mentioned the reason, but still, if you see some other reason, or you can elaborate why have I mentioned this particular reason? Is there any specific reason? Are you able to see any kind of patterns or something? Then you let me know. So I have mentioned this is vulnerable. This request is vulnerable. Okay. And I have also mentioned the reasons. So it might be true, it might be false. So what do you
Sir,
think?
is brute force technique like the token each and every value like
So it is around which token you are representing this token.
huh?
So this token has a very large number. So is it possible to brute force such a large number within fraction of time? It will take lots of time, right? So what's your call? Is it vulnerable or it is not vulnerable? Okay, let's add timestamp also here. Okay, to keep it more
Sir,
specific.
it is vulnerable because maybe token is generated on the basis of timestamp.
Okay, okay. Let's take today is 18 December. Okay, so if I say the timestamp has no validation, this particular timestamp header has no validation. It is like it's a generic one, and they are not validating a timestamp. So what in this case? Is it vulnerable or it is not vulnerable? This timestamp header is not getting validated. So initially, I can accept it. Okay, someone mentioned like most of the people mentioned that okay, the timestamp can be guessable. The timestamp is something that is we can guess and we can mention it. We can update it. So now I'm giving condition that this timestamp is not getting validated. So what's your call? Is it still vulnerable? And if it is vulnerable, then why it is vulnerable? Because we have a token here. The token is here, and the token is very hard to brute force. Okay, and second, the timestamp which you mentioned, which you added in the header, is not getting validated. We have two scenarios. So now the brute force fails, even the timestamp fails. So I have removed that particular validation. So what's your call? It's just like you just have to mention vulnerable or not vulnerable. So brute force is out of scope now. So you don't have to brute force the ID. Okay. Okay. So let me just, do you know, when you see such kind of patterns, you might have seen the CTFs and stuff. Like when we are working with CTF, we just try to decode things. We just try to like find out what kind of things are it. So this token is nothing but a timestamp. So this timestamp, which I had in this particular header, is just to confuse you. And this doesn't have any kind of validation, to be honest. Okay, but once you decode this, like you can just Google like decode timestamp online. So or you can just Unix timestamp or something. So once you copy paste it here, convert to human, so we'll get something like this scenario. So this is a very older request, and this is what the timestamp decodes. So this particular patterns you can try over it. So not necessarily this is in the particular pattern only. Sometimes you will get some kind of basics for encoded values or some kind of hashing values or some kind of other encryption mechanisms. So you can check over that particular values and try to analyze. Whenever you see such kind of tokens, such kind of values or something, or any kind of things, you think the way you think in the CTF part. CTFs are nothing but derived from some kind of real life scenarios and derived into and mentioned the CTFs. So when we such kind of randomized token, try to guess it, try to brute force it, try to decode it, and try to understand the logic behind a particular token, and then that not vulnerable becomes vulnerable. Okay, I hope you are able to understand the depth of this particular CSRF. And now coming to the next slide. What about this? So this is vulnerable to CSRF. If we can see, one second, this is even there is a token. Let's say I will add some kind of token or something over here in the URL itself or something. Still, it will be vulnerable because it is getting the get parameter. So it is always recommended never ever send CSRF tokens, or we can say anything in the get URL basically, or any kind of sensitive we can say actions in get request. So one of the bypasses for CSRF is like, suppose by default, most of the scenarios you see where CSRF implemented is in the post request. So you have to change it to get request and see if it is working. If it is working, boom, it is again vulnerable to CSRF. Now, what is the mitigation? As I mentioned, first is like detection. Whether is any detection was something, whether is there any kind of unique parameter in place that keeps on changing on every request. This is the first one, that is the detection of CSRF, whether CSRF present or not. Second, we have seen how to bypass stuff, like we can convert into get, we can convert it, we can decode particular values, we can brute force particular values, we can do various other things. That is something like bypass mechanism which we have seen in the CSRF part. Okay, now coming to mitigation part. Okay, first of all, you say implementing CSRF, then you can use CAPTCHA. Some people don't implement CSRF. They don't want an additional token that needs to be generated again and again. So they use CAPTCHA. They use referral header. You suppose you add referral header, so the CSRF chance of getting CSRF reduce a lot. Then there's custom headers. Like I mentioned, not necessarily everyone uses CSRF token or XCSRF token. Some use like Finky, let's take a CSI token or something, or any other thing, which keeps on changing. So in the scenario, you can use custom headers. You can use same attribute cookies. Like this is also a mitigation for CSRF. In case you don't want to implement CSRF, you don't want to implement CAPTCHA, even you don't want to maintain some kind of headers or something. So easy go ahead is like same side cookie attribute. So that will also prevent CSRF token. And the last is like never send anything in the get request. Any sensitive actions or any sensitive now is CSRF applicable on every request on every page? Is it the scenario? What do you think? Can we report CSRF for any request, anything? You might find CSRF almost everywhere, to be honest. In most of the websites, you will see there are CSRF, but CSRF is not valid, or we can consider it is not considered as a we can say it will consider as a low hanging or informational vulnerability when you report into bug bounty and stuff. But if you are trying to exploit CSRF on any sensitive parameters, like for example, you're finding CSRF on like add to cart field, or change update shipping address, update name, like updating something or performing like account delete or something, then the severity will be higher. But if you say I am able to perform CSRF on a static website that is just loading that particular website, there's no action items, so that is not valid. Okay, that CSRF is not required in the first place. If someone is implementing, so that is an optional approach, we can say, or additional layer security, but as such it is not required for static pages and non-sensitive action items. Okay, so that CSRF is not required. So we should not blindly report CSRF across platforms. We should make sure that there is some impact, we're able to perform some kind of actions, then we can go ahead and report it. Got it? Now the misconception should be clear, like where to report and where not to report, and why most of the people as a freshers when reporting CSR get NA duplicates, or we can say they get negative points while reporting this stuff. And what is the reason? Some people get high bounties and quality bugs and quality reports, and reports get accepted. So totally depends on impact. So whenever there's an impact, whenever you show the impact, like how you are able to escalate, how you are chain it, uh you will get quality. Now look into the some kind of how exactly this implemented. So how exactly mitigation is being done. So this is how the request looks like. For example, this is a login page and it's some kind of vulnerable website. Okay, and this particular token is being implemented here. So there is a check in the piece. For example, you have given a PHP request where you can have check token, request user token, and session token. So you are actually checking this particular token, whether this particular user token is matching or not. If it is matching, then you say, okay, it's valid request. If it's not working, you just give an error like invalid CSL token, or you just like request failed. There are multiple ways to um, we can say display the error. And as a best practice, it is not recommended to mention that is a invalid CSL token, because the first thing when it comes, like once you mention that this is a invalid CSL token, most of the website does it, that they display that this is invalid token, and people get a hint that we can bypass, and let's try to bypass it. So never ever display generic, provide a generic error instead of displaying the specified error. Okay, even if you're into pen testing domain and you see such kind of scenarios, then you can also report it that information under information disclosure and stuff. Okay, but in Magondis it won't work. Okay, now coming to the next part. What's the impact? Impact is already discussed multiple times. You can perform unintended actions. You can change to account takeover also. Like for example, any idea how can we change CSRF to account takeover? Anyone?
No.
Okay, so just think of a functionality where you have an option to update email address or update password. Okay, so just think you have performed CSRF on update email address. The emails get updated. Once the emails get updated, suppose you have there's an call victim at the gmail.com. This is a victim's email address, and I'm an attacker. I'm an attacker with the gmail.com. So I will send a crafted request, malicious request, CSRF request to a particular victim. As soon as the victim clicks on that particular link or this opens that exploit, basically, the update, the email of victim at the gmail.com gets updated to attacker at the gmail.com. Now I can reset his email address, and the account gets take over. The same comes when it comes to like changing the password. We can just set a new password and send the request to the victim, and the automatically the password is updated whatever the existing password might be. And in this scenario also, the account get take over. And that's also called as account delete. Once the user the victim deletes the account, no, there will be denial of service, like user won't be able to access this particular account, all the data and everything will get vanished. So you can change to like DOS, account takeover, and various other we can say various other vulnerabilities, chaining various other vulnerabilities, which might give you high rewards. And and also upgrade the severity basically.
So credential harvesting also comes under this, right?
Yeah, you can also go for credential harvesting. Even you can also this CSRF is also a mitigation for most of rate limiting, no rate limiting you might have seen. So if you are trying to automate some kind of attacks, in that scenario, you will be seeing that because of CSR, you are not able to brute force the credentials, you are not able to harvest credentials, or you can say you are not able to automate most of the attacks. Okay, and so there's an option in burp suite called recursive grep. So you can grab this particular CSR tokens and reuse it. Okay, so I will check if I can show that particular demonstration. So that will be helpful for you. So let's try to solve some of the labs. So for the timing, we'll be solving the port figure labs. Okay. Okay. So here's it.
Kiran, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Um, like there is a proxy named Foxy Proxy while using the Bob suite, but when we open the open browser by default, it is opening the Chromium based Chrome.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So how can we integrate that? Like instead of Chromium, Firefox will open so that we
Okay.
can use the Foxy Proxy
Okay.
extension in the browser.
So let me break into two parts. One is like the Chromium browser. So Chromium browser doesn't
Yeah.
require proxy because
Okay.
it by default works in the proxy itself as it is integrated with the workflow. And if you want to use proxy, then you can use the traditional browser like Chrome browser or the Firefox and use the add-on to use the proxy. For example, this is a Chromium browser, and if I use like if I go to all labs, I don't actually require this proxy. If I just click on intercept on now and refresh it, so I will be getting the request over here directly. So we don't require proxy in the first place. So coming to the second question, like for example, if you want to use Firefox proxy and you want to use like additional browsers, so here you will get add-ons and like add-on, and from here you can like install, enable, and here is it. You will be getting this. Let me just remove this controls to the new desktop. Okay. And here's it. Here you can just add bulk suit or something. If you're new to it, you can just go ahead options and add new basically a rule.
Yes.
Here's it. You will get
The look back IP you can add over here, right?
exactly. So I already added it,
Yes.
so it is not required for me.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
This is how you can work with Firefox early. So most of the time nowadays people use this Chromium browser itself because it is by default integrated and doesn't need any additional efforts. But initially it was not a scenario, and at that time we used to use Firefox or you can say Chrome. And even in some when you are working with the enterprise, we can say in the organization, some of the organizations block this Chromium browser. Like the Chromium browser is by default blocked by anti-malware solutions and stuff and under some policies. So in that scenario, you can go ahead with this like traditional browsers. And also there are scenarios where these plugins are blocked. Even the Foxy Proxy plugin is blocked. So I hope most of you might be knowing it, but still for the additional information, you can just go ahead and one second. You can just go ahead and go to settings and just search for proxy settings, and you can use manual proxy configuration. Uh, uh, since I have enabled this, so it is so you can use for manual proxy configuration, and you can use 127.0.0.80 and press OK, and automatically this proxy will be set up. And for Chrome there is no such option for proxy. So you can just also use proxy in the system itself. You can just open it, and that is called setup manual proxy. Okay, and here you can on it, just add the port number, save it, and automatically for all the browsers, like irrespective of what the entire operating system will be under proxy. So you can also use internal proxy settings to intercept the traffic. So in that scenario, you don't have to add individual browsers to a proxy basically. Okay, clear? Questions related to proxy.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
So there are multiple ways. So whenever you people say that okay, we don't allow such stuff, you can directly use the system proxy settings instead of going through some browser or something. Okay, now coming back to this one, let me just go Control F. Okay, let's go solve this. Let's access this lab. Sometime. Now go to the lab description to understand what exactly the challenge is. The challenge is like we need to update the email functionality, okay, which is vulnerable to CSRF, okay, and they have given the credentials winner and Peter. So ideally, in real life scenarios, we register an account, but since in this lab they have already provided credentials, okay, winner and so you can register and then just log in. Now I will log in. Now that's a function called let's say test it and update email. So I'm able to let's see if the functionality is working. The functionality is working. I'm able to update the email. So let's try to see what exactly is happening when we just when we are trying to update this particular email address. So okay, what do you think? Is it vulnerable to CSRF or it's not vulnerable to CSRF, and how will you exploit it? Any idea?
Sir, it is vulnerable to CSRF.
Okay. Done. So how will we do in the Bobsuit browser? So there's a in Bobsuit not a professional edition. So this doesn't work in the community edition. We just have to, for example, if we send it, and we just have to like right click it, and there's called engagement tools. Then it's CSR POC. You can just control copy it. But this when you do this particular CSR HTML, the problem with HTML is that you need user interaction. Okay, let me just show you. I just Control C, okay, or you can say, let's go and test it in browser. I'm just copying it. So go ahead and press here, enter. There is a button called submit request. Until I don't click on this button, I won't be able to exploit it. So any idea what can I do to automate this? Like there should be no user interaction. Once the user clicks on the URL, the action should be auto performed.
There is a method called auto submit.
Like exactly. So in the options, you will see there's an option called auto submit script. So, and you just have to regenerate it, and you will, this particular script will be appended. What this does, as soon as you open the URL, so most of the time you get this question in the interview basically, like how will you exploit CSI, like user interaction required. So who will open that HTML file? So most of people are not aware there's an option called auto submit. So they get stuck in this in the middle. Like what will do? Okay, that is true that the file needs to be open, and who will open that file particularly. So in the scenarios, you can just use this auto submit and to exploit it. So in this scenario, you don't use the multiple user interaction. It is just like just the click of the URL and you are ready to exploit. You can also copy the HTML, or you can just copy this particular link. Just open it also. Try to open this. Where is it? Okay, you just open this. Submit. So I haven't clicked on this particular, we can say, URL, and it got exploited. But since it is a lab, in real world, the URL itself is enough. But since it is a lab, we have to go to the exploit server and like just copy this exploit code and run it on the server to complete the lab. Okay, so go over here, control paste, and then store it, and you exploit and deliver it to victim. Undo. It is sync, it is solved. So I hope you are able to understand what exactly we did. So just to give a brief overview, or we can say summary of it. Currently, we have seen, like we have seen the previous in the lecture itself, there is no unique token or unique something that is present over here. So it is by default vulnerable to CSRF. But to exploit it, what we did, just right click on it, go to engagement tools, generate CSR POC, and then we did is like auto submit script. If we this is optional, auto submit script is optional, and regenerated it, and we try to test it in the browser. Or the other scenarios, you can copy HTML and create a HTML file and paste it in it. Okay, both works. So this is how this works. So we'll look into 2 or 3 labs, and then we can switch to the new topic. Okay, let's see what is the new lab. My account, web description, dosage, CSRF. Okay, so let's try to solve this lab. So here there is a condition where token validation depends on the request method. So we have what do you think? What will be this particular method? So this already we have seen the presentation slides. What comes to your mind when we see depending on the request method?
Get method is used.
Exactly. So we'll be using this particular part over here. Select, just remove it. Okay, proxy. Let's use VI winner and Peter. Login. Okay. Okay. So this was error which I'm saying. Like it says invalid CSL token. So in the lab, it is okay. It is giving hint to us. But in the real world scenario, you should never use this particular errors like and the token is invalid, or we can say and the CSR token is invalid, because that gives a attacker and hint that there is a validation in the CSR part. Okay. my account. Okay. Here we got the email address. Let's take the tested email xyz.com and see, turn on, update. And here we are able to see that this is something CSRF. So we can say at the initial stage, it is not vulnerable to CSRF, but we can definitely bypass it. Like someone rightly mentioned, we can change it to the get parameter. But what if this description was not given? If the title was not given, what will the test is that you will perform? Anyone?
Sir, can we use options here? Like it will give us what methods are applicable. Options method.
You can use options method. So it is saying that methods not allowed. So, but it is giving you a get and post. So even though you are getting such kind of errors, you should always check the header part also. So developers are very smart. They trick users to like ignore the rest of the part. Most of people, what they do, they just look at the response part and they just ignore the headers. So it is always important to see the headers also. So here's it. It is saying that get and post. So this is allowed. So what will you do? Should I change it to get, and will this work in your
Yes.
opinion? Yeah, let's see. Probably it will won't work, but still for your concern. So it is like missing parameter. So it is not working. Why it is not working? I just made it to get, but still it is not working.
There's percentage in email. Email is not proper. It's converted into
No, it is not a scenario. Email is proper. If you see, this is URL encoded. If I just go to this inspector,
The
and you can see,
the CSRF token is invalid. We need to generate it again.
okay, let's remove the CSR token. Still, it is saying no. Still,
The email should be in URL parameter.
okay. Let's take this normal. Like I have made the email normal. Okay. Someone mentioned that email should be in the URL parameter. Exactly. So
Yes,
whenever
the
you
emails.
whenever you do some stuff, like for example, whenever you convert into a get to post of a post to get, in the post the body is in the, sorry, the parameters are in the body, whereas in the get the parameters are in the URL. So many people make this particular mistake, that when they change from post to get, they don't update the body parameter into the URL. So in so one thing is like you can do it manually, like slash question mark email is equal to and CSL token is equal to. The other thing is like you can just, okay, let me just make it a normal one. There's an option in Bobsuit, change request method, and automatically it will do it. But this the same scenario, you can do it. Okay, you can just, if you want to do it manually, can you go ahead and just do, it's like question mark and paste here and make it to get and remove. Okay, send. Boom. And you should be getting the response. It is taking some time. I don't know why. Okay, see. So this it is taking time. I'm okay. Ideally, it should not take time. Sometime I'm not sure why there's a delay in the response. Okay. And along with this, one issue over here is something that is the CSR token is getting the into a get parameter. There is one more vulnerability present over here. Headless sensitive information is passed in the header in the get parameter. So this is also a scenario that you can report, but in the for example, instead of CSRF, the randomization ID session token or something else that is sensitive and that is getting a get request, then also that also something you can report. In that scenario, suppose there is no CSRF token, but there's some other kind of sensitive information that is passing through the get request. That is also something you can request. Okay, you're getting 200. Okay. And now let's try to solve this in the lab itself. So here's it. So I'll just close it and proxy. I'll go to proxy. Let's see. Let me just like csi@example.com and try to intercept on, update the email address, generate say change request method. Okay, and generate CSR POC controls. One second. Settings, not settings, options, and go to options, include auto script, regenerate, and copy. Okay, now go to exploit server. After going to the exploit server, okay, and to check whether I have intercept on or off. Okay, let me just turn off the proxy. Okay, control V, store and deliver to victim. Let me wait. Okay. There's a problem somewhere. Okay, deliver to victim. Okay, the lab person. So once I just missed probably, that is someone mentioned that the ones, where is it, total request, please go to history. Okay, control R. Okay, someone mentioned that their token is invalid. Okay, so let's try to remove this and see what will happen. So here's it. So ultimately, what I mean to say using this is like, it is not necessary when you're passing, you can just pass the email address also. There is no token validation. So anyways, you have, once you are sending the get request, so don't actually need to send the CSR token. It is just like, even if you send it or if you don't send it, or even if you send any kind of garbage value in the CSR token. For example, if I just add ampersand CSRF equal to like Kiran, so still it will work. So there is no validation in the CSR token. Okay, got it. I hope you are
Yeah.
able to understand the labs properly.
Yes, sir.
And the same case is applicable in the real world also. Okay, CIS also. Okay, back to lab description. Let's go to all labs. Okay, since we want to cover other topic also, so just wanted to know like which lab you are like you're thinking we should solve in this. So there are lots of one. So we'll be looking for 1 or 2 labs, and then we will. So now we are seeing this one. So then is token validation depends on the token being present. So this is also a very simple one. So I'll just brief you out in normally. So in this, what exactly will happen is like token validation. For example, if you just remove the token, then also the CSR this after removing the CSR token, we will be able to exploit it. Then there's not so user session. If you're using some older user session or older token, then also this particular lab will get solved because this user session is not getting validated, and there's not session to cookie. So we can just use no the token will be the one which we are using, but the session cookie is not getting validated. For example, you are using I as a user A, that is Kiran, or we can say an attacker, and there's a victim on the other hand. So I'm using my valid CSR token and sending it to the victim, and that victim will be that CSR token will get executed, or that action will get executed. Why it will get executed? Because the cookie is not session cookie is not getting validated, because I am generating a CSR token which is valid for me, like a Kiran user or attacker user, and that token is not valid for the it should not be valid for the victim user. But in this current scenario, what exactly will happen is like, just because I am using, like, okay, it's like a cross functional, we can say, tokens. The token is not getting mapped properly. A valid token can be generated from the attacker end, and that same token can be used for exploit a victim. So this is how it will work. Now duplicate unduplicate cookie. So what exactly happens is like, there is something called a double-sided cookie. There's also mitigation which some people implement, but there is no proper validation. You can read about double-sided cookie. So there will be value in the header, or we can say cookie, basically cookie header, a cookie, and also in the body. So it will check whether the value in the cookie as well the header is matching or not. If it is matching, then it will give a go ahead. So we need to check that particular part. We need to match both of them, and then this will be the one. Then there is like a referral header verification. For example, there is some kind of I mentioned like in the previous slides also. We have added custom headers. We had referral headers. In that scenario, you can check whether it is present or not. It is getting validated or not. So, and the same goes with the broken header. Like if you just remove the header, we can just try other things. In this particular scenario, you can go ahead and solve all these challenges. You can give a go ahead and try one by one, and if you are curious, there are lots of write-ups available. Or if you still are not able to understand, then you can ping me and we can connect one-on-one. Okay, so let's go to a new topic now. Or do you still want me to solve the labs or stuff, or should we go to a new topic? Hello.
Yes, sir. Post it into the chat or unmute and say, okay.
Let's go to a new topic, because okay, we will just see quick like the few 2-3 minutes for left for this topic. So what we'll do, we'll just quickly jump into like the write-ups for this particular, we can say, something that is left. Okay, I just missed this OAuth based CSRF. It just got out of my mind. This for this there is no labs which are with me, but this is a very rare or less seen CSRF exploration. So I don't have any labs, but I do have a write up, or not specifically write up, but reports basically. Might be medium write up or a hacker report basically, which has similar one, which I will be showing in the next one. So what is OAuth based CSRF? So in this scenario, there is something called a state function, which is by default, you can see over here, there is like state function. If this is not present, then you can say that CSRF present. So this is a very easy finding, you can say, that you can understand when it comes to CSRF OAuth based. So do you know what is OAuth? Where is being OAuth used?
Yes, yes.
Someone elaborate, like few words
Mm,
on it.
Yeah, so whenever we are logging in with any new website, so there one option is coming like sign in with Google or sign in with Facebook. So that is the open authentication, right?
When developers implement this such kind of OAuth implementation, it might be Google, Facebook, Okta, or it might be any kind of third party integration. When they give a single sign on such kind of scenarios, they doesn't pass some kind of state parameter, and or we can say CSRF parameter or something. So because of which this becomes vulnerable. So it is not like, since we are going with OAuth, or we can say a single sign on, then it is by default secure just because it is by Google or Facebook or something. So we need to check. There might be possibilities where OAuth is also vulnerable, and there might be a possibility of CSI the OAuth function too. So how we can do the state parameter that being sent for the initial authorization request and send back from the authorization server to the client in the code that can be later exchanged to a token. So this particular state function is next, go ahead and change this token is being getting validated initially. So once you don't see this particular state function, so there's a high chance that there might be CSRF possibility. So you can check and validate it, and if it is vulnerable, then you can report the OAuth request too. Okay. Now, what is exploration? So there is no state parameter. State parameter is not getting validated. For example, you can just change the token, like the same things that are applicable for CSRF is applicable for this state parameter also. And then last one is like you can remove the state parameter. Suppose, for example, this request has state parameter. What if I remove it? Is it still working? Is it validating? You need to check all the CSRF token value, we can say checklist, or we can say criteria into the OAuth CSR also base also. Okay, the only change is like there we have CSR token, or we can say custom header or some kind of referral headers. In the scenario, we have something called state parameter. And I'm not sure, there might be some kind of new parameters too, but as far of my information, I have counted on the state parameter, so I just included into this particular presentation. Okay, so you can check for some new parameters too. So here are some write-ups. We will just go one on one quickly. So for example, CSRF. So it is one of the easiest finding, we can say, vulnerability, and that is found very easily. See, CSR Bradley examining $5,000 in CSR bounty. There are lots of reports. We will just go to 2 or 3 reports, guys. So here XCSR token, that's XCSR token that is being used. So but there was no CSR token check, so they are not validating it. So once we remove that CSR token, there is no still we are able to exploit it, and it was fixed, and Facebook rewarded it with $25,000 bounty. So this particular scenario we have already seen in the presentation slides. We just have to remove this head, and the exploit is ready. So this is how people get bounties and stuff by reporting easy funding. Now the same, there's a media deletion, for example. So in this scenario, there's a media ID. Okay. One second, we just okay. Okay. In this scenario, also the scenario is same, and there's a token which is not a CSR token is not being validated, and user can, once the user clicks on that particular URL, the action gets performed, and hence he was rewarded with $3,000. This similar, so you will get apart from this Facebook also, there are lots of various other vendors also. Yeah, like chaining, as I mentioned, we can chain this CSR with IDOR. So in this report, you can see there is an open source account which has a trial version. So the user created a trial version, and there are 2 values. One was like Google Analytics, and second is MNT token. This MNT token is nothing but a CSR token over here. Okay. Like I mentioned, it is not necessary every time you will get token or CSR token. Sometimes it will be some different kind of token which is working as to prevent CSR. So he just created this particular MNT token, just made it to the GET request, and checking, and also check whether the referral head. So as I mentioned in the worksheet literature and the previous session slides, we also need to change the header sometimes. So just change it to he just change the header also. Once the header is changed, the exploit is ready. So this is a summary, and you can read a detailed report over here. So what exactly the changes are being done. So there is an option called and one more thing to highlight. Whenever you see such kind of CSR reports, you see there's something sensitive being happening. Like in the previous two reports also you have seen the sensitive, like accounts is post is getting deleted or action getting revoked. In this also you will see you are able to cancel a subscription plan or delete the account. Okay, so you see cancel trial and delete account. Okay, he is performing on this particular action. He can perform on view dashboard, view account, and various other things, but that are not sensitive. But here this is something sensitive. So you have to look for sensitive information and try to perform it. So first of all, it's like he has changed the header parameter. This is like pentester world. So here some, and he had changed the header. The host, like the domain name is disclosed for not disclosed for security reasons. Okay, he has updated this particular parameter and also the referral. Initially, this exploit was not working because he hasn't updated in the referral parameter. So once he has updated in the host, so not the URL as well as the referral parameter, then it was working. So like we have seen, like engagement tools generate CSI POC, creating an HTML file and stuff. So you can go through a report one by one easily. There are lots of screenshots and stuff which you can check out. And the last one, which is the last two, is the account reports, which I have added. One is the simpler one, like the which is related to web auth. Like I mentioned, like there was a state parameter. You might be seeing that in this scenario there is no state parameter, and later on they have implemented a state parameter, and they have fixed it. So you can also read this particular report to understand how exactly this OAuth functioning is working. So this was found in the Twitter basically. So Periscope is nothing but a subdomain, not we can say subdomain, but a parent domain or child domain, basically child domain of Twitter itself. So you can see that it is reported Twitter. In this scenario, in similar pattern, you can find vulnerabilities for CSRF and report it. Someone mentioned that CSRF and logout will be issue or not. So CSRF and logout is considered is a as I mentioned, CSRF and logout is the non-sensitive field or parameter. So you can report it into pen testing report, but you cannot report into bug bounty. In bug bounty, you will get P4 or P5 probably. So you can definitely report. So it totally depends like what you are performing. It's a pen test activity or it's a bug bounty activity. So there is a huge difference when it comes to pen testing and bug bounty. In pen testing, you can report each and every minor finding. It might be P5, it might be informational. You can report each and every finding, and it stands value until it is exploitable. But when it comes to bug bounty, it works on the severity metrics. So until it is P1, P2, P3, so it has a high value, and for P4 and P5, P4 the value is very less, and for P5 there is no value. So mostly logout issue on CSRF comes under P4 or P5, and in most of the scenarios it is P5 because there's no impact. The only thing that occurs like the user get logged out and user can re-log in. Okay, so that's it. So done. So this is already known. I have already described. So I won't be able to. I won't be elaborating this part. Now going to SSTI. What is SSTI? SSTI is nothing but server-side template injection. So this server-side template injection vulnerabilities arise when user input is concentrated into templates rather than being passed as a data. What does it mean? So any idea? Okay, I just got one question. I think I have missed this part. So again coming back to CSRF one. So I think this is the last question. So we will close this question and then we will go to SSTI. Okay. If there are any other questions related to CSRF, then I just post it once so that, or we can take it the last. So let's take this last CSRF question, and rest of the questions related to CSRF we will take it at the end. Okay. So the question is like, what if the JSON data is getting passed? So will there be a CSRF or not? So this is, I can say, one of the most asked question in when it comes to interviews. They ask that our data is into the JSON format. So will I be able? Will there be CSRF possible or not? So any idea, guys? What do you think? Will CSRF work on the JSON data if there are questions in JSON?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how? Any idea?
Yes.
Can I elaborate?
Sir, because ultimately it will be in a request parameter. That's why.
No. When it comes to JSON, you won't be able to do it because it is like you won't be able to render data. So for that scenario in JSON, we are not able to exploit CSRF directly. So what we do, we yeah. So what exactly we do is like we convert into XML entities, XML convert into XML parameter, not parameter basically, the format basically. And if it is accepting if the header is accepting a content type accepting XML response or XML request, in that scenario you can go ahead and exploit CSRF. So you'll get lots of blocks, not if lots of, but you will get a few blocks related to how to convert a JSON to XML and exploit CSRF. So you can go ahead and read it. So it will take a few more time to understand how exactly it is working. You need to understand how to convert the JSON to XML. But there are lots of websites also that you just have to paste the JSON body and it will convert automatically into a XML request. So there's no much more efforts that need to be taken. Apart from this, you can also use set fetch headers. That is also used to mitigate CSRF, we can say bypasses and stuff, and CSRF as a CSR mitigation. So if someone says we don't want to implement CSRF token, we don't want to implement captcha, we don't want to do anything. But so what is an easy go? You can just mention that as a mitigation is a set fetch, or we can say headless implementation or same side cookie implementation or stuff. Okay. Now coming to the SSTI topic finally. And for we have also few more questions for CSR which we will taking at the end. Okay. As time permits. Okay, 1 second. So sorry, I just okay. Now coming to server-side template injection. So what exactly happens in server-side template injection? Let me just open here. If you can see this particular thing, here's like input. I hope you are able to see this what I'm writing in the URL bar, right? Once again, let me just open it in Notepad. Sublime. So when it comes to SSCI, so there are some kind of templates which are being used. So most of the things that we see in the SSCI is related to Python probably, but there are various other languages that also supports template. But currently which we are going to see is probably related to Python, because that is the most commonly seen exploited in the real world. Apart from this, there are also SSCI on we can say C as well as Ruby and various other languages, but the most commonly seen is like under Python. So anything that comes in the curly braces and a user input is taken. So this here is something where server-side template injection might be possible. Suppose we had like 5 x 5. So what is 5 x 5? What do you think? What is this 5 x 5? Is it 25? Is it
Yes, sir.
55?
25.
Okay. So, but when it comes to template injections, what exactly happens is like this is nothing but the variation. There are 5 set of characters. For example, there are 5 different templates, which when we say why do we say template injection? Because there are 5 different templates, or we can say the 5 different sets basically, or 5 different variations which are switched accordingly. Like sometimes we select this from a dynamic set of values. Suppose you have 100 balls and you get like 0.5, let's say 55 or 25, whatever the value comes. That is something, the value or template that needs to be selected, or that needs to be we can say updated or executed. So this is how this template engine works. It works on a template selection and template or whatever the input that is provided. Okay. 1 second. Where is it? So what is the cause for template injection? Currently, this is not vulnerable because the output string twig is nothing but a which is a derived function, or we can say of Python Django probably. I'm not sure, but probably Django or Flask, which function in which they are trying to render a input called first thing, and they are passing to array and presenting over here. So in this current scenario, they are taking this as a data. Since they are taking it in data and not into it, not directly in a template format, so this is not vulnerable. But what in case they are directly appending this data into, or we can say taking an input directly into the uh, value, the taking the value and passing it to a template. For example, in this scenario, the web developer sometimes presented the user prior to rendering. Before rendering, they just directly take the input. For example, and quick render dear get name. In this scenario, what they are doing, they are taking this particular name and passing in the URL the name parameter. So this forms something like vulnerable URL name is equal to bracket something bad stuff here. So you won't be able to see the brackets in the URL, but in the backend they are actually passing it into a curly braces, which are basically nothing but templates. Okay. So instead of static values, so there are 2 values. One is like the name that is static. Okay, there is a static value, and the value that is being passed, that is something dynamic. Okay, so this dynamic value is something that is potentially vulnerable to SSTI or server-side template injection. So whatever value pass over here, if it is getting executed uh, instead of getting rendered at the initial stage, so in that scenario the SSTI is possible. So how will we find it? Suppose if you add something like this, there are various other payloads, and it is giving you an, instead of providing a value something like suppose this is a name. So what should be the scenario? It should pass 5 x 5, right? So this should be the name. But instead of this, if it shows something like 55 or 5525 or something, some similar values, which is a result of this we can say the answer to this particular solution, or it might be like 5 to 5 combination 2 characters, or 5 plus 5. If you get any of such scenarios, then it is vulnerable to SSTI. Okay, are you clear?
Yes, sir. Sir.
So how to identify, as I mentioned, like 1 second. Okay. You can use either you can use like curly braces for any number. It is not necessarily like most of people have misconception, and if you add 5 cross 5 or 7 cross 7 or some same number, then only this attack vector will get executed. But it's not the scenario. You can use anything. For example, let me just add, like, for example, some random number, not just a number, into some random number. So this, even if it gives an output of this particular value now, so then also it is okay. It is not like you need to use a same number or some kind of single digit number, something. But why do people use the single digit and the basic numbers? Basically, that is easy to calculate and easy to identify. Like when you say 5 cross 5, you'll be knowing that it's okay, it is 25, or it is 55, or it is 10. So it is easy to calculate. So people prefer 5, 7, 1, 2 or something. But in a real case, you can use any number. And this is also a misconception that people need to use 7 cross 7 payloads or 5 cross 5 payloads to understand SSCI. Okay. So apart from that, if you can also try for this kind of polyglot payload, and if it is giving some kind of error or something, try to read that error. I hope you are able to see this. Well, let me see if I can zoom this out. So if you're able to see, it is giving this error. You will either get it in the we can say web page or the response basically, or you can get it in the console, like inspect element, the console logs, console errors. Basically, you can get it. The error might vary from application to application. You are able to see some kind of Django, Python, or some kind of scenarios. So this is a high chance that there is a probability of SSTI. Okay, because some people do hide the errors in the front end. But so for that scenario, you can check if there are any kind of internal errors or something that is being displayed in the console logs or inspector. You can just do the inspect element and like do some R&D and find various other options to explore this. And then second is like, if the error is not being displayed, you can try for basic payloads like I mentioned, like $7 cross 3, 7 cross 7, or any kind of thing, or various other like these are bypass section that we can use. So, or you can also check the documentation manual for a template engine. Suppose for just in case you might be able to understand that there is a template engine, but that template engine doesn't belong to Python. And Python is something that is very well versed. Like you get lots of payloads and stuff, but there is some different template engines. So in that scenario, you can refer that documentation of the particular template engine to understand the payloads, understand the exploitation, understand the different scenarios. Okay. Now again, let's try to understand this part. So let's try to understand the map, like how to identify which template it is. Okay. Like in this previous scenarios we have seen, so that was related to twig, right? But that might be Jinja 2, or we can say Flask or Mako, it might be Smarty, it might be unknown, some kind of different one. So once you enter some kind of payload or something like this, then we can see if it is passing, then we can try for some different payloads. If it is failing, then we can try for double quotes, then we can also try for and if it this particular, suppose just this is passing, then we can say if we are adding this kind of payload, if it is getting passed, and if this payload is accepting in this scenario, that is Mako. If this payload is getting passed, then that is Smarty. And if both this fail, then that is unknown. Okay, if both these payloads fail, then that is unknown. The same scenario, suppose you are adding double quote double curly braces 5 into 5, and if it is failing, like I'm going to say even this payload fails and this both this payload fails, and the bypass techniques like we have seen. 1 second, yes. Okay, like we have seen the previous one, we have tried this, it might be, so all this comes from the same category. For example, this does not contain curly braces, but it contains some kind of characters which are all together online. Let's try to see what exactly it is. Okay. Not sure. These are some WAF techniques. I'm not sure what exactly this indicates. To be honest, at the first place, currently, if someone knows, then they can definitely contribute to it. But currently, as of now, I am not. I don't recollect what exactly this percent and stuff indicates. Probably space, I think, but I'm not sure exactly what exactly it indicates. I think probably it is space that no or null. I'm not sure. Okay, leave it. But you can definitely try for all various appeals, but none of them are working. Then in that particular scenario, it is not vulnerable. Like none of the payloads are working, none of the templates are working, then it's not vulnerable. If any one of them working based on scenarios, you can understand like which particular function is being working, and based on that, you can craft such similar payloads to execute the task. Template based. So this is, for example, for polyglot, there's something that I'm used. For twig, you can use the 7x7, 7x7, or 7 single quotes. For smarty, you can use dollar. Like we have to use dollar. For tornado, okay, the percentage was for tornado. For tornado, we use percentage. Uh, and for flask or ginger too, we use such kind of payloads. So for various different templates, there are different payload types, different payload patterns that we need to follow. Like for example, for if if it is vulnerable to flask, you cannot try it with. And if it is vulnerable to tornado, you cannot try it smarty. So and vice versa. Okay, so we need to understand which kind of template is being used. Then it will be easy for you to execute and perform exploitation. Okay. Now there's also automation tools like you can use TPL map for automating some tasks and stuff. So what is the impact for SSCI? That is a remote code execution. You can take a remote code execution as well as XSS and various other things that you can perform. Now, when we speak about exploration, since it is Python, you suppose if you want to get the ID parameter, or we can say ID, or we can say who am I, or execute some kind of command. So perform some kind of execution. So what kind of payload will you use? Let's take, I will just add import os colon ID or something like get ID or something. So will this work? Anyone?
Yes, sir, it will.
So in real sense, I don't have labs to demonstrate, to be honest. So it won't work because the reason is these templates don't have the ability to execute all the commands, or it has a different like set of variables, or we can set of functions that are actually allowed, so that you can find it in a documentation part. So for that reason, you won't be able to actually find it. Let me check if I have the documentation or something in place with me. Check. If I get it, then I will share you. Okay, let me just check. I should have been. mm, 1 second. Just a minute. Second. Well, I think I don't have it handy with me. So let's continue with the current session itself. Okay. Okay. Now let me reshare my screen. Where is it? Zoom. Choose it. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. I'm not getting that particular documentation, but we have something hack tricks with us with me handy. Even though it doesn't have that documentation, but you can get it. Let's try to understand this particular one. So this is something we have already seen the bad stuff here. So here, instead of the image that I have added in my presentation, you can also refer this one, whichever is suitable, whichever looks better. You can use this particular example or this particular something very something similar. But the tools, like if you want to understand how to use this particular tool, you can either use the tool hyphen help, or also you can use this particular, you can use such kind of examples to understand over here. Okay. Yeah, there are examples for Java also. Like I mentioned, there are various examples. Like some template injection works with Java, some works with Python. So this is a very good website where they are given examples for Java, as well as Python and various other languages and other things. So you can just go through this website and understand how exactly it's working. So it is Spring, View manipulation, expression languages, Pebble, and HubSpot. So there are various different templates which are provided over here. So this here is this is for PHP. If you notice in everything, so you might not be able to see that they are importing something. They're actually taking the help of internal environmental labels or internal labels or something, or they are fetching from some other objects, arrays or strings directly, but they are not importing something, because the import function doesn't work under templates. If you try to use import function in template, so it will by default fail. It will either provide you error or something, so it won't work. So and hence we use constructors, objects, and default variables which are present, and not the import function directly. So for Python also, for example, if I import something, we will be getting the error. Like if you import OS or something, you will getting an error. So we use OS system who am I. So this is the reason behind it, is like the import for this particular function doesn't work in Python. So I'm not familiar with most of the other one. Even I'm not to be honest, I'm not good at coding to explain this code specifically. But yeah, most of functions no, don't work directly with this particular template. So there are some conditional approaches for templates that what will work and what won't work. So you can read this particular thing and work upon it. Okay. some people mentioned that it'll like explain ports figure. Okay, so let's try to solve one or two ports figure labs. So the all labs. Okay, now try to solve the SSTI. No. Okay. Let's see the lab description first. The lab is only to SSTI due to unsafe ERB template. The to solve is to execute arbitrary code and delete the moral.txt file from Carlos directory. So we have to our task is to delete this particular file from the Carlos directory. Like unless we have seen that like RC is something the impact of this, and the puts is saying to take the RC and delete this particular morale.txt file. Okay, let's try to do it. So for this, we need to find some kind of input parameter. Okay, let's see view details where you can find any kind of parameter something. Let's check. Oh, 1 second. One second. Let me just go back to this particular. Let me just access lab again. These details. Okay. So I think there is no input field over here, but let's see some other parameters over here. Okay, so here is it. So unfortunately, this is a product that is out of stock. You're able to see something over here. Let's try something that is getting reflected. So let me just take it into Bobsuit and see if anything will work, because I'm not able to see any kind of input parameter. So you intercept, and not necessarily every time you will be able to see the input parameter to perform some kind of exploration or something. So always the first part when it comes to SSCI now, that we need to check is the inputs getting reflected. If there is something that is getting reflected, so see just if something, if you can see something that is getting reflected, I can see there's get request, that message getting passed, the as a header something. I can see this is something which seems to be interesting. Let me just decode this part to understand thing better. Okay, so let me go to inspector and see. So it is saying unfortunately this product is out of stock. Let's try to find this if it is getting reflected or not. Okay, boom. So this particular value is getting reflected. So there's a high chance that this value is vulnerable, but I'm not sure. Okay, let me just go to intruder and try payloads. So we can try payloads one by one, but what intruder will do, it will just help to automate the, we can say automate the attack and make things better. So I will just go to this particular website and try. See, these are all the payloads that we need to check. Just paste it over here and start the attack. By the time this is working, you can just try manually. Okay. I just want you to contribute. Like, what should I try first over here? Which pillar should I try first? We already seen, right? Lots of one. Okay. Anyone? Which pillar should I try? Based on presentation, also
Basic one, sir.
basic one. Can you just spell out?
Blacket 7 into 7 and
Okay.
close.
7x7.
Close.
Okay. Let's try to see what exactly will happen. So it is reflecting. So what do you think? Is it vulnerable? This particular payload. Is it vulnerable to this particular one?
Yes, sir. Maybe, or maybe we need other payload.
Okay. Let's go to the presentation again to understand what exactly is happening. So in this particular, once you go to this particular slide, what I have mentioned, in a case, we have tried this one, right? So in a case, this is reflecting now, then that is not vulnerable. To try to understand. So currently, if we get something like, even we can say in this particular scenario, I've shown, if we are getting a response, I am not sure if it is correct or not. If you get a response like instead of 5x5, if you're getting 55, 25, or 10, then it is vulnerable. If you are okay, let me just add this. The above values might be vulnerable. Okay. But in case if you're getting as it is 5x5, means this is not vulnerable. You're getting me? So currently we are getting 7x7. We are getting as it is 7x7. This means this is currently not vulnerable. This payload is not vulnerable. I'm not saying that entire website is not vulnerable because there are multiple checks in us, right? This we failed. Okay, we can try for this some other payload. We can try for this. We can try for this. We can try for various other payloads. So if it is, we can try for basic one, that is check this one. Okay, still it is not vulnerable. So we can try for other things. So we need to do lots of trial and error, which will take lots of time. So what we did is like we can also try for basic one. Let's just try for 7x7. There's a high possibility the brackets are already present, and we can try for this, but still it is not working. So it takes lots of trial and error to do stuff. So what we do to automate the attack, just use this intruder where you can light all the payloads that we required and see whether it is vulnerable or not. But how will I know whether any of this worked or not? Any idea? How will I know whether one method is like we can go one on one and find whether it is vulnerable or not, but the response is too long. We need to check and find each and every request. So any feasible method? Any idea? Anyone? How to check whether if which of my payload work for this? Okay, nice. Kamal has a very good solution that we can use grep. So we can go to ahead, and here there is something called as grep extract. Just add it, fetch the response. We already know what is the response initially. This one, just select this response. Okay, and click on okay. Click on okay. So there is something that you can do for almost all various other attacks also. So here is it. So you're getting me? this payload got 49. So we tried 6 out of it, out of which this, even this doesn't work, we can also use polyglot payload also, like I had shown the presentation. So there are various payload that you will get. You can just go for SSTI, and
Kiran sir, we lost your voice.
Due to some network issue, Currency is not here. He'll join in a minute.
Well, till the time he joins, we can just take this group picture. So if we request everyone to turn on the camera if possible for a minute for group picture. Okay, everyone, quickly so that we can just keep this.
Hello team. Actually, my internet got disconnected all of a sudden, so I was disconnected.
No problem. No problem.
Okay, sharing again. So minute. So let's see. This is line number 53. Okay, just remember this line number 53. This will be helping us in the upcoming data when while we exploit further. So let's go to back to this one and see what can we do since it is in Python, like we know. Okay, so let me just go to Python because this is this one. Okay. One second, where is it? One second, I'm just getting a call. Just a minute. Oh, sorry, I'm back. So initially we have seen that something which is under the percentage is working. So which comes under this category, that is ERB Ruby. Okay. So we have find something similar to this one, right? We are getting this particular pillar which is working. So this indicates that this comes under ERB Ruby. So as I mentioned that there might be multiple different things. So since this is coming under ERB Ruby, we will be using ERB Ruby payloads. For example, who am I? Let's to check whether this is working or not. Okay, let me just check if the who am I is working or not. Just let me know if you are not able to understand something because SST is a bit complicated as compared to other topics. Okay, if you are missing something, if you are think it's like if you are not able to understand something, and do that, just let me know. 1 second. Let me go to beauty parameters, and I'll be modifying over here because modifying over here will become tedious. So I'm just modifying over here, and let's see the encrypted value. Okay, done. I think see once I modify over here, the value gets updated over here, and let's try to send this particular value and see line number 53 or something, right? So you're able to see, we got the response. The reason I mentioned to see this pinpoint this 53 is like you will be getting the response in the 53 line number only. Okay, because the data is getting reflected on line of 53. So if you don't if you won't remember this line of 53, you won't be able to understand where exactly the data is getting reflected. So that's the reason why I mentioned in the previous time, like just go to line of 53. So here you are getting the data. So but what was the challenge? Let's try to understand what was the challenge that we need to solve. So let's go to a lab description to understand what was the challenge. Okay. So the challenge was to solve the lab in which ERB document are found and delete the morlero.txt for the Carlos directory. So if you are well versed with the Linux fundamental lecture, so 1 second, if you are able, let me go over here back to Bobsuit. The directory structure is in this format. Where is it? Back here, system. I need to modify instead of who am I need to write the different command. Let me see like Not sure. It will work. System yes cat slash the user. It's Carlos, right? CARLOS. We have to remove it, so you have to delete it, right? So for deleting, we have RM. And for space, you can just plus and Carlos slash to ls first to understand whether it is present or not. Carlos that it is present or not, or that particular file which you're saying is actually present or not. Let's try to do ls and see if you're getting any results or 50. What went wrong? Yes, which current directory?
/home/Carlos might be.
Okay, but we should also know which is the PWD. Like if you're not into the home directory, then yeah, that's /home/Carlos will also work. But let's see, 53. We got it. We under /home/Carlos. You can directly delete it from that particular directory. So let me just go to /home/Carlos. We got it. So let's go to this particular one /home/Carlos but we have to remove it, right? Let's try to remove. Do you want to read the particular file? Cat, but if you want to remove, then we can just go ahead and remove. Let's try to read that what exactly is present in a particular file. Okay, and there we have that particular file or not. Let's try to do ls.
Sorry to mute yourself, please. There is a background noise which is getting.
We are not able to ls. Let's remove it.
Yeah, actually, I'm not able to do that.
RM plus. Let me just remove RM is for remove, and the file that needs to be removed is no. This formatting is not getting properly done. There's a problem with this so let me just add it in the Sublime. The letters are getting strings somewhere else. Let's go to this particular browser, and we want this model.txt to be deleted. Control C, and let's add this file. So let's copy this payload. It just becomes alarm. So okay. I hope you are able to understand this command. Okay. So what we are doing, we are just calling system command. That is a remove. Remove means delete. Basically RM indicate delete. Plus, since we are into this particular directory, home Carlos, we are defining an entire directory home Carlos, and in this particular for this user, there is something on model.txt which need to be removed. So we will just copy this particular entire command and paste it over here in verb suite. Okay, I was about to do it over here, but there's some issue with the verb suite formatting. So just did this and like click enter, and we have updated this and probably 53. Yeah, I think probably it is done. Like let's try to do show response in browser, copy and paste, enter. Let's see the lab. I believe it should work, but not sure what is going wrong. Maybe I'm something else. in case if someone is getting something, yeah, so they can definitely contribute. Sometimes errors do occur before online. I'm not sure where I'm.
Sir, what if we do not put the plus sign? It is encoding that also.
Okay, sure. I will do that part also. Let me decode it, and instead of plus, I will just use space. Let's try this part. And even I'm doing on the real time only, so I'm not sure what exactly is going wrong. And different website and different channels have different kind of mechanism. Let's try to put it in plain text. The problem with not putting plus now, so it will escape this particular characters. Like for example, it will get broken over here itself. So it won't work, but let's try to
And
encode.
now URL encode here, right?
Okay. Paste encode as URL. Try to paste this. Since we are running out of time now, we will try this part. And if it doesn't work, then okay. Okay, done. It is solved. So the problem was with the plus sign. So thanks for that one. Sometimes it required plus sign, but sometimes it doesn't require. So as I mentioned, so it differs from case to case. So just giving a brief, we can say just summary of the entire thing that we have done. Okay, and then we will close this session. Okay, because since it was a bit messy. So we got the reversal, right? Like we are already into this. We like Kamal mentioned that we want the reversal. Anyways, we have mentioned who am I? Who am I is something, but we already got the shell of the particular and this one. Okay. Now coming to the summary part, because some might not be able to understand properly because there was some chaos and mess into this particular lab. So initially what we did, we tried the set of payloads and like various different payloads, and we tried it. Most of them didn't work manually. Then we gone and seen the automated process in which we use the intruder and set a list of payloads. But the challenge was like we were not able to understand based on the length, because all have various different lengths. Only some 2 3 have similar one. Most of them have various different lengths. So we are not able to understand which is the which actually work. Then we use something called as grep function over here. We use add grep function, and then we grab the particular result. We got this particular result in the grep function, in which we found it. Okay, this payload is working. So we try to understand which of what is this payload type, whether it's a Python, Ruby, or something. Using this particular website, we just tried for something like this particular function, that is angle bracket percentage, and we found it. Okay, this belongs to ERB Ruby. And for ERB Ruby, we have a list of functions that like how it is working. That we have a couple of examples, out of which I used this particular system function to execute the code, because I want to execute code. If I want to list something, then I could have used this one, but this is, I think, probably for Windows. uh, but for Linux we can use like a cat, or we can say a system function. Basically, that is something I can use. So I use system function. Initially I used who am I, which I got Carlos. And later on what I did, instead of who am I just tried to list out particular functions. Okay, sir, please explain match function. Okay, sure. Once I complete, I will just definitely do it. So after that, who am I? We tried to craft our different payload. Initially, I tried using in the Carlos directory, but it failed. Then we just did pwd, which is print current directory. We got home search Carlos, and then we just removed using rm plus. But this command didn't work. So later on, someone came up with an approach that we can just remove this plus. Plus actually indicates a space basically, but sometimes it doesn't work. So then we URL encode these particular characters, because if I just put this period as it is not working. So we URL encode this particular value, and then place in the system value. Okay, and finally the lab was solved. So got it? I hope everyone's clear with the concept now. So summarize it. First, we have to detect the input parameters. When I say input, not necessarily it should be an input box. Like in this scenario, we didn't got any kind of update email or search parameter or something, but we had something called a message parameter in the URL itself. So which we took as a injection point. So parameters can be in the form of various other elements that we need to check. So once we got it, so as in most of the images you might have seen in my presentation, as well as most of the images in the SSTI, if I do and go to this images, in most of the images you will see they are trying one or two payloads or something, and based on that they are just saying that okay, this is vulnerable, not vulnerable. But this is not the scenario that, like we have seen the current scenario also. Like it is not necessary that only this two payload will work. There are various other payload that might work. You need to understand there might be WAF, there might be something else. So and it is not restricted to just Python. So most of the images which you see over the web are related to Python, but now we have seen something related to Ruby. So it might be Ruby, it might be PHP, it might be Java. I have given several examples regarding to it. So you have to craft various different payloads related to various different languages and try on it. But if you want to be specific, you don't want to try blindly, then you can do recon. In the current scenario, we haven't done recon to understand. We just blindly um, we just blindly added all the payloads and try to brute force it. But on the other hand, you can also do say second approach like we did. Like we can use polyglot payload, or we can use like I have mentioned, like we can use console or vapalizer or various other things to understand the technology, and then use the specific payload according to it. For example, if I already knew that this is Ruby, then I could have directly use only the Ruby based we can say payloads. That is probably it is already providing the ERB template. Okay, so but to understand or make you understand better, I haven't used this hint directly. So I use all the different payloads to understand how exactly it is working. Okay, so this is for now, and later on finally we use this particular payload and we got the results. And we also make sure that we know on which point the data is getting reflected. For example, here in 53 number, and it came true, means the exploit was successful. Okay, so this is a summary of the entire SSTI. I can understand SSTI is a bit complicated, but once you practice, once you go through it, it will become easy. So it is no rocket science. Whereas CSRF is easy, so most of people might have understood CSRF very easily. But yeah, template injection is a bit complicated, but with time and practice, it will you will get sorted. And like we have seen errors in the current scenario, like sometimes the plus won't work, sometimes the payload won't work, sometimes we have to balance the payload. So this kind of challenges you need to understand. With time you will understand, you with time you will be very good enough in crafting periods and stuff, and it will be a streamlined process. And the question that came to me for this one is like how to grab this part. Okay, so let me show you again. Select and okay, in the first response line of the three, line of the so line of three we got this particular response, right? Okay, so what I do if I want to grab this particular value, so I want to know what is getting printed over here. So this is the question I am resolving. Who want to understand how to grab once again? So there is something called a grep extract function. We need to add it, and we just have to refetch a response. Just try to okay. Okay, sorry. I won't be able to do it now because I think due to repeated, since the lab is solved, the port figure has closed it and it is giving 504. But to keep it simple, we can just paste it. And for example, this is the value. Just select a particular value. The regex will get automatically created. Click on OK, and all the data will be displayed in this particular section. Okay. Okay, then that's it. Any questions apart from this? Okay, I would like to take questions related to CSRF which was asked before. I think I am not able to see any questions because I just lost that chat once.
Kiran sir, yes, we can take the questions, but meanwhile, can we pose the quiz and feedback form while the questions are going on?
Quiz and feedback form is you can post quiz and feedback form.
Okay, yeah.
We will take the questions for 2-3 minutes, and we have some other sessions parallelly need to be done. So we will close it. Okay.
Yeah. So you can take the questions till that we can pose the quiz form. So others will.
Okay. Sure. So someone has asked, so the parameter which you is also vulnerable to reflective accesses. Yeah, you can chain SSTI to access also, and currently it might be or it might not be vulnerable to cross scripting. It is not the scenario like every time you see something reflected is vulnerable to it, but we can definitely try it. We need to check whether it is sanitizing the user input or not. Let's check. Okay, but currently this lab is done. Just reopen it. So for access is completely different topic. So we will either it is done, or if it's not done, then we will definitely look into it into some another day. Okay. So totally, so when it comes to access, totally depends on input validation, whether the input is being validated properly. For example, is it converting into HTML entities, or is it blacklisting the script tags like script tag, or we can say angle brackets, or what exactly they're escaping? Is it what are the inputs that are allowed, based on which we can craft access payloads, and then we can look into it. So it is altogether different topic. So there might be a possibility, but when it comes to Portugal, there's a high chances that access won't occur. But that might be a possibility that we can find access in this scenario. Any other questions? Okay. Okay. So we'll be closing the quiz exactly at 12:15, right? 12:20. In 5 minutes, we'll be closing the quiz. 5 to 6 minutes. So you won't be getting any extra time because there are very few questions, and the questions are almost very easy, and they are derived from the presentation itself.